The members of the Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial Committee would like to welcome you to our induction ceremony this morning. This is our 15th annual Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial, and we welcome you and are happy to have you join us. Today we are going to be recognizing 5 former Pioneer athletes for Pioneer Pride, and that's the purpose of our meeting this morning, and also to get to know some of our scholarship recipients that receive a scholarship because of the Pioneer Athlete Memorial. Tom Derringer is going to introduce some former inductees.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to recognize and honor our former inductees, and if you would, you can follow along in the back of the program. There's a list of them. And you can check my pronunciation, which is not always good, but I would like to take just a few moments to do this, to honor these people. The very first class, our class of 1966, we inducted Jim Clark, Freddie Woodruff, Nick Dreesen, Fred Lawson, Brad Holt, and Drew Williams. Class of 1997, Tommy Nicholson, Sonny Keys, Kenny Gallagher Jr., Bruce Gray, Patrick Harity, and Tom Hudson. Class of 1998, Bill Platt, George Moore, Charles Esslinger, Kendall King, Gary Rippey, and Rick Belatti. Class of 1999, Glenn Ward, John Thatcher, Jerry York, Bob Cutter, Randy Maddox, and Dwayne Childers. Class of 2000, Gus Dupree, Coach Floyd Caldwell, Coach Bob White, Chip Myers, Sam Satterfield, and Max Mitchell. Class of 2001, Chilton Swank, Bob Murphy Sr., Winsel Bilyeu, Dean Birch, Max Stites, and Dr. George Gathers. Class of 2002, Kenny Gallagher, Lee Snyder, Eddie Bunch, Bill Henderson, Paul Mooney, and Dana Cleverton. Class of 2003, Leon Tedder, Max Johnson Sr., Jim Sloan, Carl Fry, Coach Ralph Hamilton, and Coach Jim Harris. Class of 2004, Peyton Glass, Jack Shelton, Melvin Hemphill, Joe Kennedy, Joe Jarvis, and Towsley Lewis. Class of 2005, J.D. Cheek, Buddy Andrews, Jim Barnes, Tom Curd, Scott Dudley. Class of 2006, John Gillum, Bernie Dorman, Bob Hillier, Richard Ingham, John Bradley. Class of 2007, Bob Andrew, Tommy Chesbro, Richard Hume, Jim Shields, and Willie Welch. Class of 2008, Wendy Miller, Olin Miller, Bill Finley, Kenny Clark, Ray Ferguson, and Willis Mackey. And our last year inductees were Jerry Stubbs, Bernie Stubbs, Earl Lunsford, Gary Snyder, Craig Lawler. Then we had a special award last year for the first time, Erlene Flagger, and Mary Jo Carrier. I'd just like to take a minute and help us, think and remember and honor these, if you would. As I do that, I'm going to open us with a word of prayer. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to refresh and remember classmates, fellow pioneers, and it's a great time to honor you at the same time as we remember and reflect on how you've blessed us. I pray that you'll just be with us this morning, allow us to honor these individuals, and at the same time glorify you through this ceremony. All this we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
As Tom said, the purpose of the Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial is to recognize former Pioneer athletes. But secondly, but not the most important, is to endow a $5,000 scholarship each year for a Pioneer athlete, a senior that is going to attend a university or college in the state of Oklahoma. We have some of those recipients with us this morning, and I believe Amy Rakestraw is present. If she would come forward, please. Thank you, Amy. We have Kristen Rink, also with us this morning, a scholarship recipient. Thank you, Kristen. And we have Tyler Grantham with us this morning, a scholarship athlete. Kristen Rink is attending Oklahoma State University, and she was our recipient in 2008. Abby Rakestraw is the 2009 recipient, and she is attending Oklahoma State University. And we have Tyler Grantham, the 2010 recipient, and he is attending Southwestern Oklahoma State University. And these are people that we are taking a lot of pride in because they are representing Stillwater High School and furthering their education in the state of Oklahoma. Let's give them a round of applause. We thank you for being here. It's important to us. I think we have some other important people in our audience this morning. I believe Pat Jackson, the Alumni Association president, is with us. Pat, would you stand, please? Thank you, Pat. We're glad to have you here. Butch Lingenfelter, our athletic director at Stillwater High School, is present. Butch, where are you? Thank you, Butch. And we have Tom Kinnick present. He is a past Stillwater High School athletic director. Thank you, Tom. Is there any other faculty or staff that's present that I can identify this morning? If not, I think that we are going to begin our induction ceremony very soon. And I think that we need to recognize that Craig Carmaine, the class of 1938, will be presented by Carla Harrett. Keith Thomas, the class of 1957, will be presented by Stanley Ward. Joe Fry, the class of 1959, will be presented by Gordon Fry. And John Haggerty, class of 1984, will be presented by Todd Green. Let's, if you would please have Carla Harrett come forward.
Good morning, Stillwater. It's nice to be home again, especially for this very meaningful occasion. Thank you, Stillwater Pioneer Athletics Memorial Association, for finding the merits of Dad's qualifications to fit your program. Uncle Kent and Aunt Dorothy, a special gratitude. Cindy and I are certainly gifted with your efforts in this endeavor. Most of us have filled out job applications at some point in our lives. We answer yes or no, check boxes, fill in social security numbers. There are often background checks and maybe fingerprint requirements. Once this information is found suitable, we sign an agreement to salary and benefits. Would those of you present who have served the armed forces of America please rise? You have also filled out job applications, checking boxes, crossing T's, dotting I's. However, when you signed on the dotted line, you surrendered self in favor of sacrifice and service for the common good of a grateful nation. To that end, you would even lay down your lives for us. Please join me in giving them a heartfelt gratitude. Thank you. You may be seated. Daddy signed on the dotted line. He agreed to sacrifice the fullness of family, friends, personal desires in order to protect our freedoms. He was the man of the soldier's creed that he recited daily that you are familiar with. It started with, "I am an American soldier." At the end, he would recite, "I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier." Craig Rulon Carmaine was born in Chinook, Kansas in the year 1920. Today it is a date noted to the left of the dash carved on his headstone. At age 10, Craig moved to Stillwater, Oklahoma, where he became a member of the 1938 Stillwater High School football team, the undefeated champions of the Northern and Cimarron Valley Conference. He also lettered in basketball. Each summer found him working on a cousin's farm near Scott City, Kansas. He would later credit this hard work and his physically strong conditioned body for saving his life in combat several times. Upon graduation from high school, Craig pursued his desire for higher education and entered Oklahoma State University here at home, where he pledged Lambda Chi fraternity. Consistent with the times, however, his financial ability to remain in school dimmed. He was then resolved to join the Army and see the world. And see the world he did with a first assignment in the beautiful Hawaiian Islands. These spirited young infantrymen prioritized their time outside of work, on motorcycles running with the Oahu breeze into the sunset. Life was good for a few years. December 7th, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Craig Carmaine's life would be forever changed. After 3 years on Oahu, Carmaine was assigned to service in the South Pacific, where he was one of very few men to walk off of Guadalcanal alive, following 2 years of the most horrendous fighting conditions. Even history turns a flushed countenance and uses the most guarded language to pen this chapter of a war. He then departed for the European theater, where he was hit by flying shrapnel within the year. This resulted in the amputation of 3 fingers. At the end of 6 years' service during World War II, Carmaine was honorably discharged July 1945. His duty to service did not cease, however, as he was later deployed to French Morocco, where he assisted at an armed forces morgue. By then, he had graduated from the Cincinnati College of Embalming. During the war years, Craig married his high school sweetheart, Wanda Gudgel, September 1944 in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, during a very rare furlough opportunity. Wanda was also active in many Stillwater high school events. Most notably, she was honored as football queen for the 1937-38 school year. They have 2 daughters, Cynthia Ann Priestley, husband Bill of Aqua Dulce, California, and myself, my husband Tom from Salt Lake City, Utah. There is 1 grandson, Monty Craig Madsen, his wife Lisa, of Swansea, Wales in the United Kingdom, and 1 great-granddaughter, Libby Rose Madsen, also of Swansea. Following employment with Strode Funeral Home here in Stillwater, Craig obtained his own mortuary in Holly, Colorado. From there, he and Wanda purchased funeral homes in Rawlins, Wyoming, and Meeker, Colorado, prior to retirement in Southeast Colorado. Craig is known for his caring nature and love of people, which made his career as a funeral director a perfect fit. He also served his communities through church work and leadership roles in Lions Club, Freemasonry, Shriners. In his latter years, he particularly loved working with the Shrine Club of Southeastern Colorado. The Transportation Board for the Intermountain Shriners Children's Hospital is what he focused on mostly, and that hospital serves in Salt Lake City. For me, it is Daddy's fitness report that sums up this man of the American soldier's creed, and I quote, "I have found him, Carmine, to be an exceptionally fine soldier under all conditions. His personality, character, and experience are far above average. He possesses qualities of leadership, initiative, fortitude, and physical endurance so essential to an officer in the United States Army. He is capable of learning and acting quickly and is exceptionally cool under enemy fire," end quote. 6 years of active wartime duty earned Craig Carmine the Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Good Conduct Medal, American Defense Service Medal, European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal, World War II Victory Medal, German Combat Infantryman Badge, and other such proofs of valor. Under the shades of a wonderfully large, protecting tree stands a headstone among the neat and orderly procession of other military headstones dotting the National Cemetery at Fort Lyon, Colorado. On this stone, the date December 27, 1994, is noted to the right of the dash, thus marking the completion of life for Craig Rulon Carmine. He has lived his dash, that symbolic notation of a life lived between birth and death, as a man committed in service to his family, his community, and his country. Thank you.
If there's other family present that would like to honor Craig Carmine, if they could come forward at this time.
This is for the family.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Forgot that part of the instructions.
I'm Kent Carmine, Craig's brother, and I'd like to introduce the rest of the family. You've met Carla and her husband, Tom Harrett, and this is Cindy, his eldest daughter, and her husband, Bill Presley, and that's my wife, Dorothy, and our daughter, Dawn, and her husband, Pete Fry. And we had a sister, Eleanor Ann Carmine, and she graduated from Stillwater High, and this is her son, Sterling Kelly, and his wife, Rosemary. And just glad to be able to introduce these folks. They're very dear to all of us.
Our next inductee to be honored is Elva Moody, class of 1954, to be presented by David Oates. David, would you come forward, please?
Thank you. First thing I want to say is what a wonderful honor it is for me to be asked to do this. Elva and I were friends for many years and teammates, about 60, I suppose. And we belong to a generation that tended to refer to each other by their last names rather than their Christian names. So if during my presentation this morning I happen to slip up and refer to Moody or Mood, you know I'm talking about Elva. I'll try not to do it. Before I start, I do want to recognize some of our teammates that are here. Gordon Fry, who will be up here shortly. Ronnie Collier from Lubbock, Texas. Are you here? Hold up your hand. There he is, over there. Also our classmates, my wife Winona and Ronnie's wife Joanna. Bill Bernhardt, who is one of our classmates, he's also our innkeeper for the week. So, at any rate, we all represented our class here to a degree. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about what's in his bio in this handout. It speaks very well of him and it tells about him. I'm going to talk about some things that, from a personal standpoint, that I want to say, as well as some of the teammates that I talked to trying to get ready for this thing, and some of their remembrances of Elva. And first thing I can tell you, if you're lucky in your life, you might know somebody like Elva Moody. These people are few and far between. They've never met a stranger. They have an optimistic approach to living, and that's what that's what Elva had. And if the pioneer spirit ever needed an icon, it was Elva Moody. He was probably the most positive person I've ever known. He was a friend to everybody that knew him. He always had that smile and that friendly demeanor where strangers instantly became friends. And he had a lot of problems, and it's not covered in your bio, but Elva had a lot of health problems. But all through that, he had that optimistic approach. And like I say, there are some lesser known things about him that are dear to me and things that always come to mind when I think about him. And I want to touch on these for just a few minutes. Your program says that he played football and wrestled for Stillwater High School, and that's true. But he also played basketball, but not for Stillwater High School. I think when we were sophomores, we weren't good enough to play on, I think it was Ralph Hamilton's basketball team. So Elva, Bernie Dorman, who was one of the previous honorees, Charlie O'Donnell, Roger Sixkiller, myself, and several others, we formed a team and played in the Stillwater City League. Our sponsor was Marvin's Food Market, and some of the older folks here probably remember Marvin's Food Market. We were called the Marvin's Maulers, and Moody was our point guard. But we didn't win all our games, but we did go down as the team that year that had more personal fouls called on than any other team. And as far as I know, I think that record still exists today. The second thing I will always remember about Elva is his skinned nose. And his y'all know what I'm talking about. Back in those days, we didn't wear face masks. And you were kind of a sissy if you asked for one, so we didn't wear them. First day of practice in August, Moody would skin his nose. And he was a lineman, he was an interior lineman, and we played both ways. So, but for the rest of the season, that nose stayed skinned. And it was a common sight to see him on the football field with blood running down both sides. I tell you, he was a fearful sight. But as an adult, that scar stayed with him. His whole life he had that scar. Third, as I say, he was the most intense and competitive people I think I've ever known. It was never too tough for him. He weighed 165 pounds. He was a giant.